Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Brené Brown said there's no such thing as creative and non-creative people. There are only people who use their creativity and people who don't. Unused creativity doesn't just disappear. It lives within us all. It's expressed, neglected to death, or suffocated by resentment and fear. My guest today is Faige Kobre from Creativity Reignited. Now, as an elementary school teacher, Faige decided to change her career and to work with women to help them reignite our creativity, even if we can't draw. And she uses ink as a medium. While doing more research for her new love of mixed media, she came across alcohol inks and was hooked even further. It's a great way to have fun while getting rid of perfectionism and relaxing at the same time. As Faige says, you don't have to be a fine artist when you can be a fun artist. So today we're going to hear Faige's story, how she changed her career and how she's helping women to become and develop their creativity. So let's go and join the conversation. Welcome, Faige. It's lovely to have you join me for an episode of the Women Living Well After 50 podcast.
Wonderful to be here.
Very
happy to. Yes.
Yes. Now, we were just talking about the fact that it's still Sunday night over there and it's Monday morning here. So it's wonderful to be able to connect with women from all over the world. I feel very blessed to be able to do that. And I'm excited about the topic that you're going to talk about today because it's all about how we can reignite our creativity, even if we think we can't draw. And that is the category I fall into. So I'll be interested to hear what you have to say.
So many people feel that way. It's, one of the things I also do is it's a New York accent, by the way.
Yes, I love it. I've been to New York a few times, so I love the New York accent.
Oh, I've
got the Aussie accent.
That's much nicer than a New York accent, that's for sure. So I also am an elementary school art teacher. So I get to see, starting back, I used to be in early childhood. I trained as an early childhood educator. So I spent many years as a teacher and then a preschool director. And then I was giving workshops. I was giving workshops for schools, teaching them how to give children art that's developmentally appropriate. Because what happens is you go into most schools, I'm sure you see it in your end of the world also, and what becomes art for kids is this is what we're going to make, and everybody has to follow that. Now, what happens with that is these kids are not really developmentally ready to do what an adult comes up with. So they end up feeling like they really can't measure up, and their thing is never going to look like theirs. And it's really, it depresses a lot of kids' creativity. Now, sometimes maybe kids didn't go through that and they were able to do a lot of expressive art and process art. And then they'll get into a school situation or even at home. And not everybody is born artistic. Everyone is born creative. Okay. It's a very, very clear difference. There are people that are born musically gifted and they can sit down at the piano and they can just have perfect pitch and they can play beautifully, right? You wouldn't tell people not to take music lessons, because they don't have that gift. But what
Mm.
happens is kids that are not born with that unbelievable gift to be able to just draw realistically, they're robbed of art. And
Mm.
art
Mm.
is everybody's, it's a God-given thing that you create creativity. And it is just, it breaks my heart to see how people leave it because they say they're not good at it. You don't have to
Mm.
be good at it. If you want
Mm.
to be good at it, you can become good at it. It's hard work. There's a very well-known program called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. If you want to learn how to draw, and I don't even know if she's alive anymore, but her program has taught countless people. But you don't have to, because it is hard work. But
Mm. Mm.
there's so much to art. Art is so healing. Art is so expressive. Art is the place that people go where they can de-stress and just the paint, whatever they're using, without having to be realistic. It's such a shame how it's taken away from people.
Mm.
And it's
Mm.
become me. I can't draw a straight line. I can't even draw a stick figure. And that is a shame. It's a crying shame, because it is such an amazing medium. It's such an amazing outlet. And I really feel that the schools and people that have the wrong idea about it have robbed us. And I do find that a lot of people in our generation, midlifers, we have more time, right?
Yes.
Where our kids are grown up, and some of us are empty nesters, and a lot of people in the midlife have started coming back to art. So I find that the younger women or the younger people are just so busy with their careers, and even though somebody might have a career, people start slowing down a little bit, and they're willing to explore a little bit more. And it's took the perfect time to get into this. And
Yes.
the reason I love alcohol links for this is, so what happened with me is that I was a preschool, like I was an early childhood educator, and I stopped to raise my children. And then I was also, for many years, I was a high-end portrait photographer. I did that out of my home, and did that for 25 years actually. And I just started getting burnt out from the marketing. It was also right at the line when digital was taking over, and I was still
Mm-hmm.
doing film. I did 25 years of film photography. And it was just, I just got burnt out from the kind of marketing I was doing, and just trying to learn a whole new a whole new language of digital and
Mm.
cameras. And I had taken, I had this, I had bought an internet marketing course for my older daughters. I thought, great, they're going to want to learn this. They had no interest. Note to self: do not buy your children courses without asking them if they're interested in it. And it was sitting shrink wrapped on my shelf for the longest time. And I said, you know what? I'm going to learn this. And I opened it up. Everything came in those days in boxes. There was no
Mm-hmm.
downloads. And I started going through it, and I got really interested in it. And it talked about, if you want to create a product, like an information product, do something that you know. So what did I know? I knew early childhood education, and I knew art in early childhood education. So I I put together like some kind of ebook that I was selling, and then I took a course on how to market this thing. And when I was explaining to one of my coaches, a wonderful woman named Marcia Stopa, if you happen to hear this, Marcia, I love you. And she said, did you ever think, because I was explaining to her about how kids suffer from very copycat cookie cutter crafts, she said, would you consider starting a site for adults on creativity, and you could show them some of the reasons that they might have been repressed as a youngster? I said, that sounds interesting. That's a challenge. And I started doing research on creativity. And I kept coming across this term, mixed media
Mm-hmm.
art, mixed media art. And I was like salivating, because like I was one of these people that would go into these art supply stores, and I I felt like a drunk in a liquor store, because I would like be salivating, but I wouldn't know what to do with them. A drunk knows what to do in a liquor store. I didn't know what to do in this art supply. So I wanted to use all of these materials, but I didn't know where and how, and I didn't draw, and I was just, and I started getting involved in mixed media. And that was an amazing thing, because mixed media is also, it's just uses a combination of stencils and stamps and paint and collage. It's a whole bunch of things in a journal. And I started a little class with some women, like midlifers in my home. And then when I was one day, after like a year or so, I was doing research on my library. I was looking at the books, and then I would, order the books to my branch. And I came across a book that said Pigments of Your Imagination. And like, I stopped. What was this? And I ordered it, and I was so hooked. It was all about alcohol inks, Pigments of Your Imagination. And then I bought it, and then I was just so hooked. And what is the beauty of alcohol inks? So what are alcohol inks? They are small little bottles. There's many different brands in a base of alcohol. It's a dye. So the way to clean it, just the way watercolors is water to watercolors, you have alcohol to alcohol inks. And alcohol inks work on a fluid background. So it could work on tiles. It works with certain papers that you use that are more plasticized, non-porous. And there's a certain magic to it. You drop it, and it spreads, and it's a little bit uncontrollable, even though there are different ways to control it. The more you get into it, the more you can learn different ways. But it's very flowy, and the colors are gorgeous, and people are mesmerized. People are mesmerized by it. And it is, I have a student that told me she had a child that was had a medical saga she went through, and she said she would go down and work with her alcohol inks, and it saved her.
Yes.
And I've heard people talk about getting into the zone and the flow of it. And it's not hard. Like let's say people have never done it. So what I do is, on my site, which is Creativity Reignited, I have a video. If you give me your email address, I have a video that starts you off with markers. So let's say Sharpies. They have Sharpies in Australia?
Yes.
So Sharpies are alcohol ink markers, there's many different brands. I mean, I've gone on Amazon, I've gotten a few different brands, and they work. So there's a few different activities. So I have this video that you have 6 different activities that you can do just with Sharpies and alcohol. So it's like a very easy way to get started. And then you see if you like it. It kind of shows you with the markers, it shows you how you can use alcohol to get these flowy effects. And then you see if you like it. And then you start buying a little bit, not like me. I mean, I'm sure you'll like me. If you love crafts, you just go. I just saw somewhere a meme that I've seen before, is that buying crafts and doing crafts are 2 different hobbies. And anybody that is in the knows goes into those craft stores, and people, we just buy things that we don't use, that we don't have the needing, because there's something about it that gets those endorphins.
It's going.
Really, so it's,
well, I just wanted to say that I actually have used alcohol inks once, and my daughter introduced me, because when we were going through the pandemic and everybody was working from home, her company, they worked online, and one of her colleagues actually started this alcohol ink, and she then gave a class on it to all her other colleagues, just because, to lift people's spirits. They were trying to introduce things for people to do while they were at home. And the colors are magnificent. They're just so vibrant. And anyway, she said, she had a go, and she showed me, and I said, oh, that looks really good. So she got all the media and the paper, and her son, my grandson, and I had a bit of a go as well. And you sort of, in one part, you put it on, and then she got a hairdryer to sort of fan it out, and that sort of got a bit out of control for me. But I can see that what I would like about this form of media is that you don't have to be perfect
For
to
sure.
do it.
For sure. That's why so many people love it, because if you get the colors right,
Oh, yeah.
anything you do is just gorgeous in this gold.
Yes.
And you add the gold, and the more I got into it, there's so many ways to use it. You could use it with like masking fluid, you could use it with varnish, you can use it with stencils, you could do landscapes, you could do flowers, you can do very impressionistic kind of things. You can do it that you can do very realistic. There's a whole genre online of women that are really the most amazing artists, and they make the most gorgeous things. But I can't do what they do, because I am not a realistic artist. So there's there's beautiful things people do with stencils. There's just, and there's room for everyone. I mean, I just gave a class I just did in the summer. It's summer's ending over here. And I did like a 6-week class with a group of ladies. And one of them, she said, wow, look at this. I'm so not artistic, and look how beautiful it is. And I just love it. I just love seeing how excited people get with it. And
yes, and it is, I think what the satisfaction you would receive as being a teacher is the fact that you know, some of your students will come to the class and think, oh my God, I won't be able to do this. I'm going to be the one that's going to be the dunce of the class. And yet when you take them through and they actually do it and produce something that's from their own creativity, they get such a thrill and surprise, I suppose, that they can produce something as beautiful as that. And that must give you a real buzz, being the teacher.
It does. It's funny because I get, like, even when I teach my elementary school students, I realize that I love enabling people to use their creativity. I mean, I do some of my own stuff, but I get much more of a buzz out of seeing what I can enable others to produce. It's something I just really love to do. I love to do it with kids. I love to do, and it's funny, there's a certain age, up until a certain age, I like to do, like, I don't do alcohol links with very young children. I do like other stuff, but I just love seeing the creativity. And I just have found with women that there's something about alcohol links. I have like one woman that actually, she came through a number of years to my little mixed media class I was running. And then she got involved with alcohol links with me. And she said, there's just something about the alcohol links. She said, I could be an artist. When I remember asking her if she wanted to be part of my class, she said, me? Can't draw. My mother was a sculptress. And then I showed her my journal and she said, oh, I can do that. And she came and she did that, but there was something about the alcohol links. There's the flow. You could also wipe things down. You just get some alcohol and wipe it down and start over. It's very easy to fix mistakes. It's just a wonderful, wonderful way of getting into creativity. Even people that have never been involved in creativity, and then people very often who've been with other mediums, they want to try alcohol. It's just not like any other medium. It is.
No, it's very interesting. And as I said, I hadn't heard of it before. It was just during the pandemic when we were all in lockdown. And
yes, and you were in lockdown for longer than anyone. Australia was, wow, really long.
It was, that's right. We were closed to the world and to each other. You know, our states were all closed, borders within Australia. So yes, it was a very challenging time for a lot of people. Some people, like for me, it didn't really make that much difference, but for a lot of other people, it really affected them and their mental health. And so there were lots of these sort of activities that came to the fore. And that's where I think we all really appreciated having the internet, where you could either learn things or you could connect with other people via Zoom or other things, other medium.
And that's when Zoom exploded.
Exactly. And I think that you know, all these creative cooking and everything sort of, the focus was on that. The unfortunate thing is, I think that now people have sort of gone back to normal, whatever that is, and they've perhaps let some of those things go, which I think is disappointing, because perhaps they've found a nice balance. They've introduced something into their life that has helped them from a mental health point of view. As you said, doing the inks can be so relaxing, and, you know, there's a spin-off for your mental health, I'm sure, from being creative. And I think that now people have gone back and perhaps gone back to their old habits of not allowing themselves that time to have the creativity.
Right. Well, it's funny because one of the problems with alcohol links during the pandemic was you couldn't get alcohol. And it was people were trying all kinds of things. And I had a stash, so I was okay, but it was like for a really, really long time, there was like no alcohol to be at, because you have to use at least 91%. The rest is watered down. And people were just, it had flown off the shelves. And there was just no alcohol to be had. But it's back to normal. But there are still people. That's why this is so great for women in their midlife, because maybe other people who were doing it who never would have, because they had so much time on their hands. It's still something that if people are looking, everyone's looking for an outlet.
Yes, and I think it's important. And as you say, we shy away from a creative outlet because we think we can't do it. So we sort of stop ourselves. We've got those limiting beliefs that we put hurdles in front of ourselves before we even give it a try. But you help, obviously you help children as well as adults and your midlife women. And you do your classes. So are they sort of, I would say, you're in a group together. Do you actually do online as well?
Yes.
In so something like a Zoom forum?
Okay, yeah. So yes, I do have. So I have this, just to get people into my world. I have this free video that people sign up, and then I have other things. I have like another little course that starts you off with, if you're ready to move into regular alcohol links. And then as people progress, I've been working on a program for people that want more. That would, that includes mini courses and a Zoom, people that need more one-to-one help, somebody that really wants to tap into their creativity using this medium. It doesn't mean that someone has to stay with this. I have a student that got really involved with the alcohol link, and now it gave her so much confidence. Like, she's taking like an oil painting class that she never would have done, because she never would have thought that she could do it. And because it just gave her the confidence, hey, I can do this. I am a creative person.
Yes.
Everyone is creative. You just have to tap into it. That's why my site is Creativity Reignited.
Yes. And as you say on your website, you don't have to be a fine artist when you can be a fun artist.
Exactly.
And I think that's the other thing. Perhaps we go into things thinking we're going to be, have to create this fine art, and yet and forget it to have the fun with it.
And it's never too late. Look at Grandma Moses, right? Grandma Moses was in her 70s when she did folk art. Yeah, are you familiar with her work at all?
Yes.
She did folk art. It was realistic art, but it wasn't like perfect, at all. And she started really late. So people never know. Once you get into it and you say, hey, I can do this, you never know where it'll take you.
And I think with the ink art, as you say, the alcohol ink, you start off with a basic level, I would think, where you're just creating some sort of abstract type creation. But I have seen others, as you said, that are so experienced, and they actually look, they've got their realistic side to
Well,
it as well.
it's a different way of using the alcohol inks. Because
Yes,
really
yes,
the fun of alcohol inks is how it just you pour and you
yes,
watch it flow. So in order to get such realistic work like that, you use your brush with
yes.
very, very little bit ink, like tiny bits of ink. So
Mm,
that's how that's controlled. So it's a very different, it's a very, very different experience.
mm.
And I think people who don't know how to draw shouldn't even go there. Don't, people, that's why a lot of people
No,
like with abstract. There's a lot of different ways of doing beautiful abstracts. There's ways of adding, masking fluid, which holds back the white and then rubbing it off. And there's just a lot of different ways. I do have a bunch of mini courses, that people who join my world will eventually like find out about. But it's just a lot of things to do with it, a lot of fun. There's just a lot of fun to be had. Fun,
yes,
relaxing. And the truth of the matter is, like this woman who was doing both of my things, both of my programs, she said, I can sell my things now.
oh,
And
it's
that
just, yeah,
and that she could have that confidence. And it's true, people buy all kinds of things. There's craft fairs, there's online, and people can make things. You would be surprised what people will buy,
yes.
especially abstracts.
Yes, yes. Well, I was going to say that actually, because going back to the colleague that my daughter worked with, she sort of started a little side business, and actually she created this beautiful trio of similar patterns for my daughter's 40th birthday gift, and they're absolutely beautiful. And she started a little online business doing that. But there's so many possibilities that you can do. You can go to a markets and have a stall and sell them, or you can do them online, or but I noticed on your website also, so you can make make it a little bit of a part-time business for yourself if you want to. So but I'd like to also talk to you about your art journaling classes. So what are they?
So art journaling is mixed. It's mixed media. Like I said, mixed media. I had started mixed media. That was my introduction into adult creativity. And it was just, there's all types of, I have so many books. Alcohol Inks is newer. I have pretty much whatever is out there, but I can't even show you the 3 shelves of books I have on mixed media, because there's stamping, there's stenciling, there are image transfers, there's watercolors, there's acrylics. You're taking all of the mediums and you use it, you do it in an art journal. And what I love about doing it in an art journal is that you don't have pieces floating around. What should I do with this? You open a book. I have all my art journals on a shelf. I love looking through them. Sometimes I'll say to let's do this. We haven't done this one in a while. And it's also a very freeing, very relaxing, fun thing, but it's different. You use many more materials, and it is, you're doing very scribbly kind of handwriting on top of things. Trying to think if I have anything right here. No, I don't have anything right here to show you, but it's a podcast, so nobody can see it anyway. But it's mixed media is what I've been doing. Actually, I've been kind of bringing my alcohol inks into the mixed media world, because there's a way. So I'm kind of treating it almost like like a mixed media. I'm doing a lot of the techniques from mixed media. So like when I do my classes with art journaling, it'll be, okay, this week we'll do something with watercolors. This week we'll do something with collage. Maybe one week we'll do something with just some houses, some wonky houses with like a landscape. So it's a different type of, just a different type of a thing. Alcohol inks is done on separate papers. What I do is I have these albums where I put my pieces, but it's not done in a journal.
No. So the journal would actually show you your journey, I suppose, for the different mediums that you've used.
Right. So like somebody can do there are ways to put your alcohol links into a journal also if somebody wants to mix and match that. I mean, I discovered alcohol links through mixed media because I was Googling mixed media and that's what came up. So it's in a certain way, it is part of the, big umbrella of it. But I think the reason a lot of mixed media art journalists don't use much alcohol ink because they're working in porous books.
Yes.
And it doesn't work so well.
No,
but
no.
But for example, you can ink on top of foil, right? And then we've done that. We've inked on foil and then we've collaged with it in our journals. So, there are definitely ways to mix and match.
Yes. And I was looking on your website and you've got with the journaling, so many different mediums that I've seen. I'm just pulling it up now. You've got mixed media flowers. You've got the stencil display, which looks beautiful. It's got all dolphins and so forth on it. And, just different ways of doing things that perhaps we don't think about. I suppose there are women that do, I think it's called scrapbooking.
Yes.
Would that be more like the collage type thing?
Okay, so what's
different?
So a lot of people come to mixed media from scrapbooking. So what scrapbooking is you use your pictures. That means you have to print them actually, not leave them on your phone. So it used to be much more popular when people were printing things out, but you do have to print them out. And then what they do is they make beautiful layouts with their pictures. I think it's not as loose as mixed media. It's more, you buy a lot of these little embellishments and words to stick in, and it's definitely in the same family, but mixed media is more loose. It's more loose, more of anything goes kind of a thing. Sometimes you layer. There's a very popular mixed media artist, Dina Wakely. She talks about layers, and one layer could be some paint, and then it could be some scribbling, and then so that in itself, that's a lot of fun. Mixed media but I just kind of I still do mixed media, but I've gotten much more into alcohol links because I just see how people take to it and how they love it. There's there's something about it that's magical.
Yes, there is, and they do look beautiful when they're done. And I've actually seen some huge productions that just look beautiful, and I think, wow, that's taken a bit of time to do that. But but there's so many things you can get into. But I think the other point before we start to wrap up is that it does, I suppose, help women who come to you for these classes build their self-confidence first of all. So we're doing the alcohol ink in just that sort of pour and let it flow. So we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to compare ourselves with everyone because it's really sort of abstract. So it can be anything. And I think that helps people who don't have the confidence in their creativity to at least make that start.
Right. It's funny because I remember speaking to a friend of mine about these paint nights. I'm sure they have them in Australia.
Yes.
I was talking to her about it and she said, I never liked them because everybody has to do the same thing. And I always like when people have more creativity. But she says she remembers being at one and looking over her shoulder. Oh, hers is coming out much better than mine. So what I do is I try to guide people. Everyone should be doing their own things. We're not all trying to see who can make the best version of the teacher's copy. And that's why I have a hard time with those paint nights, because I just find that people like them, but I just find there's not much creativity there. So
no, I think for out here it's a bit more of a social thing. They call it bubbles and
wine,
paint,
wine
so you'll have some wine and champagne or whatever.
Here too.
And, and yes, you have, I think you've only got the one you don't really get a choice. It depends what night you go, and you're all painting the same thing. And of course, everyone said, you know, they promote it that you will come away with a painting. But
Right.
I think that, you know, we're always so self-critical anyway, and we you know, we compare ourselves to others everywhere. So I think you're right with that point. You're looking at that person and you're going, and I've done it myself in just coming back now to different things I've done, and I've looked and I've thought, oh yeah, I'm looking at mine and thinking this isn't as good as that, or she's got
Right.
this, or, you know,
Right.
whereas what the alcohol ink is, whatever comes
Right.
out. You just choose the colors, you choose, you know,
Right.
and you're right, you don't have to, you don't want it to be the same as anyone else's. It's
Right.
just what you
Right.
produce.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I really think that's a
Yeah.
positive, a really good spin off from just learning to be creative, is to build that confidence in
Right.
yourself.
Right.
And
And you can start, like I said, you can start with the markers. If you go to my site, Creativity Reignited,
yes, yeah,
and just you if you have Sharpies, or you just get some cheap alcohol ink markers, they're not expensive, and some alcohol, and I'll walk you through how you make just a couple of activities, and then if you want to go further, then you'll, you know, be able to go further with it.
yeah.
Just
And if you
get a
get
start.
into it, I mean, they're lovely gifts. And of course,
Yeah.
at the time we're recording this, it's in September, so people will soon be turning to the festive season, and they would
Right.
be a lovely gift for someone.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and a personalized gift.
Right.
So I think that's really good.
Right. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So before we go today, it's been lovely chatting to you, and I'm actually quite excited to perhaps pursue that again. And I might borrow some of my daughter's inks that she's got, and she's sort of put it aside now. So I
Uh-huh.
might encourage her to, maybe we'll have a little session together, and I'll also check
Great.
out your video. But
Okay.
before we go today, I always ask my guests the same question. So I wanted to ask you, what does being a woman living well mean to you?
Filling my life with meaning, and with not just looking around, what am I going to do next? This was like when what I said, what this getting into art like this did for me was just filling my life with so much more color and joy and dimension. It's just not as flat. And
Mm,
I think that it's not just alcohol links. Of course, I think anyone that gets into art in general, I mean, you could, if you're into music also, but there's something about art that just adds a dimension to your life that I find you can be doing this. It's something that you know, I was into photography for many years. I was a high-end portrait photographer, as I mentioned, and I was doing photography for many years. I started when I was in 7th grade, but that was
mm,
the kind of thing that you were in your house, you couldn't do photography anywhere because you had to go out, you had to. With art, you don't have to go anywhere. You sit at your
yes.
kitchen, you sit at your kitchen table, and whatever you decide you're going to get into, even if it's not alcohol links, there are online classes for everything, and you
Mm,
can learn, you can get free stuff, you can get paid stuff, and it's just, there's so much out there that just gives your life so much dimension and
mm.
helps you live well.
Yes.
That to me
Yes.
has been an amazing thing.
Yes, that's because, you know, to me, living well is not just about being healthy. Our life has so many facets to it. And yes,
Right. It helps us with our mental health
yes,
tremendously.
yes, yeah. So yes, you've got me all inspired to perhaps
Okay.
try out some, and I'll have to
Okay.
send them to
Great.
you. And I'm not going to say,
Yes.
oh, and I have to be careful not to say I've done them, but they're not very good. I'll have to
Okay.
say, here is what I've done. So it's
Okay.
been lovely
Wonderful.
have you join me today, Faige. I will be putting all your links to your website and how people can contact you up in the show notes and in the blog post, so that they can perhaps check out your videos and online classes. And for the, if you know, someone's listening in New York, if you've got physical classes, they can check those out as well. So thank you again for joining me. It has been a pleasure talking with you today about igniting our creativity.
And thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And I hope that we can talk again soon. Well, it was great to talk to Faige today about using mixed media, and in particular alcohol inks, to ignite our creativity, to realise that we are all creative in our own way, and to build our confidence in being creative. So I hope you've enjoyed the interview. And if you have, I'd love you to give me a like or leave me a comment. Also share it with a friend who might find the topic interesting. They may have already tried alcohol ink as an art form. So that's it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Until we meet next time, remember to live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.